And hello. So I've gone live, by the way, chaps. If you're watching, then welcome to the show. This could be in the future whenever I've made it public on YouTube. Otherwise, it's the Patreon only live stream. My name's Rocky Crop. Nice to join us. Nice to join us. Yeah, oh, you know the usual, and all that stuff, and the like button and everything else. I'm in the Discord right now in the general chat there, and I've got some chappies with us. And we're going to look at TA together and see how that goes for us and see if people tune in for this thing. Right, by the way, it's only yourselves. In fact, there's only 3 current viewers, right? So there's more people in the general chat not watching this stream than there are people watching the stream. So that's how intimate this thing is, right? That's cool. Okay. Markets are about to open up in like 10 minutes. Are you guys planning on doing any trading in this morning, or just seeing how things go, or whatever? Or are you already even trading in other markets? You might be in the domestic market here in the UK, for instance. What's up, chaps? Shit, can you hear me, actually?
We can hear you. Everyone's just really camera shy.
Right.
Good. Are you sure the stream is on the right? Is on the right channel? Because I'm on your channel right now, and there's 20 people waiting.
Yeah, man.
I know there's a link in the tea room.
Yeah, it's unlisted. It's to
But this is exclusive.
Yeah. Exclusive for us only. I was thinking I would do the squats on the for us only thing, and then I thought that's kind of unfair because I'll do them in public. But there's something funny about doing the squats on the public show. Like, I don't ever know if it's I mean, it must be massively off-putting to a lot of people that tune in, to be perfectly honest.
It's a nice breakthrough. And it's a good reminder.
I think it's good to talk about health things, so that the TA can come under the context of health as well. You can see that there's a couple of people in there. Secret stream, woo, says Jiu-Jitsu. Good to see you. Ghost of Dead Money, you're in there as well. Then you're here, you're there, you're everywhere.
Yeah, I'm everywhere.
Yeah, market's will go up in 10 minutes. I don't know if anybody's looking at anything in particular, or if anybody likes to, even if anybody even likes to do that sort of thing. And if anybody,
we were just about to look at PCT.
Which one? PCT.
PCT, yeah.
I
started that on the weekly and said, yeah, 686 looks like a good buy price, and then there was upset members.
Well, D for one likes PCT quite a bit, I think.
He does.
I'm quite long PCT, yeah.
Now I feel like from a I slag off fundamentals all the time, but from a kind of fundamental point of view, I feel like this is a fairly good company, which is a bit shit. I mean, I don't know why what the implications are of their earnings being lower than they anticipated, but they did anticipate them being a loss. I mean, that was already anticipated. I know. And like from what you were saying about what they do, the technology wise seems great.
Yeah, definitely. They just need some like government or big organization to go with them. I mean, they just signed a deal with the Cleveland Brown football team to do like plastics at their football game. And one of the deals with polypropylene recycling conventionally is you can't recycle food waste and stuff because it leaves an odor on the plastic, but PCT can get rid of all of that stuff. So it'd be interesting to see how like that develops.
Really, that's quite a big thing, right? When you say that develops, because that's quite a big thing, like because so much of our stuff is like the problem with coffee cups, for example, right? Like they've got that lining inside them. The paper, you can't recycle the paper. The cups you get from Starbucks and the likes are pretty hard to recycle. I mean, you can recycle them nowadays in the UK, but it's only as of the last couple of years. Beforehand, it was impossible, even if they were made from paper and it said on them, "Oh, we're made from recyclable stuff," but they're not really. So like those food things are a big deal. So Well, it'd be freaking good if they turned around, man. Dead Money thinking that they could drop on down a bit further is kind of funny. It makes there's bearishness in the air in terms of like the lower lows. First off,
I'm just looking at the 4 hour. I think that little recent wedge-shaped thing. The measure move from there, 330-ish, is around about 60% of that move when it broke out to the downside. So you might have already had the whole move down.
sure, cool, okay. So like, so in terms of like the bearish drop off, the number of bears that are thinking I've had my party, is that's good. That's good. Right. Well,
I only nation bias really. I don't want to listen to anything that isn't in line with my bullishness.
yeah, I get it.
You're not bullish at the minute now, no?
No, I know. Yeah, I like the chart a lot. But dead money coming in here with the like 635 or whatever. I mean, please get out of here. You're
That was just to scare you, really.
you should.
Yeah, it's funny that, isn't it? It's one of those it's one of those ones because you're gonna have we're right in the middle of the context of the conversation, but somebody that only hears snippets of it would think would hear, oh, that's an interesting company, and then maybe it continues to drop down for a while, and then but then they go back a couple of months later after thinking maybe I'll buy some of that, and maybe the price of it's shot up a whole load, and it's one of those ones where people will be able to look back and think, yeah, I can remember the guys talking about it on the show when it was really low there, suffering. But that's what we were also doing. I mean, with that the last time when it was up at like $11 is kind of the same sort of mentality. So there'll be lots of different people looking back at this one in the future, like, did I miss out? Did I not miss out? And there's that degree of like pain that you're going through, D, which other people in the future will think would think, would take for granted, and would be like, oh, I missed it. And it's like, what did you miss exactly? Did you miss it's the dead money coming in and saying that it's going to drop, and you being really long on it and being stressed out? You missed that, did you? Because it was stressful.
Yeah.
It's the same. It's the same sort of kind of bullshitty feeling that you get. It's not the same because it's obviously more bearish and whatnot. But that way that we've been looking at AHT for quite a while and hoping that it would jump up and whatever, but it not having happened, and then in the future people could look at it and think, oh, I missed out on that, but of course they didn't, because we've been talking about it for so long. But also at the same time we've been having to go through this relative pain, although I would say that it's highly tradable, and it's been that way. There's the looking at the flashes on that PCT one, it's got a big glaring flash. It really wants. There's what is it? Was the 1 hour time frame I've seen it? Yeah, the 1 hour time frame. It's got one up there towards 1298.
I was just thinking that if this is the whole of the bearish move, but the 236 is only at 995, so it doesn't have far from 953 to move up, and I like it a whole lot more above there. And then the 618's back up at 1220 something ish, 1218, 1220, somewhere around there. So that looks like a tradable move.
I liked your comparison to HGen last week when you were talking about how it was interacting with the gap, and the fact that HGen kind of failed off the gap pretty hard.
Yeah.
I like that PCT kind of explored the bottom of the gap and then made quite a convincing higher low.
Yeah.
It was bearish on PCT because of the RSI, the tops. But now I think the RSI's changed, so the bottoms are bullish.
Yeah.
So the
Okay.
top before the drop down, the RSI continued to rise, but obviously the price was falling. You had a bid on the MACD, not so much, but the RSI completely pointed it out before the fall off. But now, is it not a change of conditions because we're way down here? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. It is a change in conditions, which is, and in that sense, it's how feasible is that sort of 1298. I mean, it's on the 24-hour time frame and it's on the 1 hour time frame. It's in both places, which is kind of nice. Well, it's not on the 3 or the 4 hour time frame, which is an interesting one if people like to look into these sorts of dynamics and whatever. We know that Kachito that's in here with us looks at that is been doing a good job of kind of remembering things sometimes, which I forget. But yeah, though that's an interesting one. But what the point being there, of course, that it could easily do that without actually changing what's happening here, because all that would be a lower high. The gap on the chart makes it kind of harder to see in a sense with the in the sense that it's covered like you know that it's not harder to see. It makes it the gap distracts the eye in a sense between these the where it drops down, because you know if it did just come back up to that area and you weren't looking at it like it had a gap in here and whatever else, you're just looking at it like it has done so many times before in terms of the ability of this thing to move, then it's obviously not great. And then really what you're looking at is this like you know for it to go up, fill in the gap, and then but anyway that's like that is the bearish case scenario, right? And you're right about it being like a changing conditions. It's very late in the day for it to have had to in the sense for it to have had that changing conditions. And if you look at the 24-hour time frame, you can see when we dropped down last time and then pushed back up that we'd had that changing conditions over there and didn't flip back to being bullish at that point. You know, and then we've come on down and we have put in bullish divergence compared to these. I don't know if you guys have got my screen open, but it doesn't really matter if you don't. In fact, I could share it through the Discord if you wanted, but whatever. You can see on your own charts on the 24-hour time frame, and you look at the low. Well, look the low between the 12th of May and the current low that we've just put in, and the bullish divergence that's there on the RSI. And we did previously have those bearish conditions. You know, we didn't manage to turn it around. That if from this point onwards, you know, it wanted to turn around, then we could maybe see that. I mean, you might see that happening at the what do you call it, that in at that 12. You know, that could be a significant pivot for us in terms of where we are. The gap that happens to be in there is right at the 236 when you've got the charts on logarithmic scale and you've got your fibs on logarithmic scale. You can see that it was right there, and that's now where it remains. You know, it's like the maths is lining up for us to you know to get doubly down sort of confirmation on follow through at that stage. You know, like if we and the where this is, you know, theory in this little idea that I'm kind of looking at with regards to the flash. Sorry to push to I mean really want to kind of ask, you know, what you guys are interested in, etc. But if you're thinking about the 113 as being a significant point here for the flash, and whether or not we have like perfect alignment, you can see that the 382 and the 113 right here, as regards to if you measure it from the movement down on the flash, the 382 being the previous Fibonacci I'd drawn on from the highs to the low here, and then this Fibonacci on the right, which I'm looking at, is from the flash area down to the low, and the 113 lining up perfectly with 382. There's a degree of like kind of, you know, measured alignment with this thing, which is kind of coming in, you know, with the gap, with the Fibonacci's lining up. Certainly in terms of the way that I'm looking at them right now, that's all. As opposed to necessarily, you know, I'm not saying what's definitively happening in the markets, but in terms of how I would measure things out, there's that certain correspondence between those two areas. Oh, the markets have opened now, and it's decent at the start of the day. Let's just take a quick look at our pals there just to see how they're getting on at the minute. 204, yeah, because GME ended last week at like 202 or something, and it wasn't quite above that 204 area, and wasn't an amazing end. I mean, being above 200 is great and everything, but it wasn't amazing. AMC, what was the other one there? 40 at the minute. How hey D, did you get in at all on Evergrande?
I didn't, no.
But you were still hoping to see it. You were still hoping to see it rise up.
Yeah.
Yeah. For the.
Wait, how long? Did you keep hold of your position?
Oh, I've not got your volume up loud enough. Damn it. Well, I'm sorry for everybody that was watching along if they were watching and hearing and stuff. If it wasn't loud enough. Sorry, D. Repeat yourself there.
I was just wondering. I'm not actually long. Didn't manage to get long on it. Do you still have your position?
Yeah. And I'm with respect to the TA, I'm aware of that. There's that there's no sure things in life and whatever else and blah blah blah. I also, the way that I'm personally, the way that I'm doing this is using a spread betting account. Doesn't really matter. It's just a derivative. Doesn't mean I'm actually buying the underlying, but I don't think that I wouldn't be trading with enough scale anyway to be affecting the underlying on this, even if I was trading on that or anything. Anyway, it's just a small fish thing. But the for me with this one right now, it's an interesting one because we were talking about it just when it was down at the underneath 240 or so, and saying it'd be nice to see it rise up, and it has risen up, but it's kind of stalled, having filled in not filled in the gap, but where there was that lack of liquidity before. If I were to stick the VPVR on, it would dip. It would have dipped in there before, in that area, in the end of October when it dropped down a bit. And there we are, just there. I'm actually still feeling really pretty good about it though. If I in terms of the low that we had the before and where we got up to, we didn't consolidate above the 236 and get continuation. That would have been nice. We just actually gapped down or kind of dropped down heavily at that point, which was disappointing. So with respect to how the TA has gone in the past and everything else, not that I'm talking about it from that point of view, but just understanding that while we're in it around about the 236 here, I am positive on it if we do get follow through at the minute, or if we consolidate here. But I would totally be thinking, if I was not in it right now, that I'd be aiming for 222, I think, or something like that. I've got another flash down below, and it's sketchy as it stands. Like, I am positive on this one, but I've got positions that I'd be happy to relinquish with stops. I've got several different kind of like layers of stops on several different chunks of my position on this one, just down to here, and thinking, well, it could easily go down to 254, in fact, where this flash is here. There's another one I think that I've got way down, like maybe one of these crappy time frames, down here, down at the oh, that's 255 as well. Have I looked at this wrongly? Maybe I'm only aiming to 255. I don't know. Well, anyway, I've got until 1:30 in the morning to think about it if I want to change my position on that one, so I'll move away from this for now. But fucking, that's what I was looking at. Are any of yous up for showing us your TA? And thanks so much, Willie Brew Lee, who's been a member for the last couple of months, saying hello everybody, have an amazing week. Any of you want, I could screen share the Discord chat out here and broadcast out to anybody if anybody is willing to show anybody else. And bearing in mind this is a Patreon only stream and the only people watching are your friends. If you're up for that, then I could do it, or you could talk about something, or you could ask me to look at something, or you could talk me through a chart without your own screen showing up. If anybody wants to do any of that interactive stuff or is up for it, then I think it would be inspiring to other people watching along, but you don't have to, right? So what do you think?
Dead money. What about that harmonic on SLGG? You could show that off. I'm far too tired to talk about anything, to be honest.
Fair play. Fair play.
I'm very short sleep. All I will do is reference the speed of golf clubs today. That is day today.
Good to see you in there, by the way, Bad Mama. It's nice to see you, buddy.
How we doing?
Doing good, man.
Oh.
Well, you know what I'm liking. I got the HT still pulled up. You think it's going to come back up and test its last high? Because
man, I'm done with the lows on AHT. If that's like
I am too.
Yeah,
no, but it looks like it's going to the next move up would be to test like the previous high, and then.
Oh, it's already been it's been a bit frothy and flirty already this morning. This move that's happened here, I want to be positive on this, right? See this bullshit that's happening right now. I want to be really positive on it. This is a smaller scale, well, actually 1358 down to 1331. 10% in there. I mean, like, this is, wait, hold on, what sort of move is this? 2% in there, sorry. Whoa, massive mistake on my math there. Massive mistake. It's a relatively smaller scale thing, but it's this shock move at the start of the day. I want this to be just classic case of people repositioning before kind of changing the conditions for the next number of hours, 2 days. I was looking at that flash that was down below on AHT. Where is it? Where the fuck is it? Last week I was saying we could still go down to
1331.
Oh, 13. Oh, there was one at 1330 or whatever as well. Yeah, we could still drop down to all these areas. Kind of depressed about the possibility of that being there. And then, to be perfectly frank with you, quite satisfied that it went there fairly quickly, and we didn't piss about for like 3 weeks.
I was too.
Yeah. So I'm ready. So when I'm saying I'm ready for it to turn around now, it's like, well, hopefully we kind of hopefully we saw the markets drop down here for this reason, just that not for any reason, any massive metaphysical nonsense, but just purely on the basis that the prices felt they had to go there, and the market participants thought, well, if we have to go there, let's fucking get it over with, you know. And if that's the way it feels like, then great, let's see continuation of that mood, and hopefully this volatility, which is a bit scary admittedly, or whatever, well, not scary, but a bit like, you know, it's dancing in that it's just at the start of the day, it's throwing out question marks there. I'm actually quite positive on those question marks. I'm looking at the bigger volume that happened today so far and thinking that's positive. This is starting to try and turn around. It's done those flash fills, and you know there's so many peaks here that there's a plethora of areas to look to for retracements within these. You know, this is obviously a small term time frame. If I stick on the 15-minute time frame, there's
check the volume on the Friday. It had a huge green volume candle on the Friday for like, I thought it was gonna like have good momentum turning around the start of the week this week, but
right. But yeah, well, you know, we're at the start of the day today. Obviously, we've got what 10 minutes down on the day, so this is a decent start to the day so far. It's the best start to a day that we've had since you know, the last time that we had a good start to the day. Now the thing about it is the last one was very good, and the other one's very good, but you know, we're on the way towards that, and that's decent if we can get any sort of proper follow through. Pretty decent. In fact, it's, oh wait, no, there's two candles there, volume candles. I'm being a bit blind. What time is it? Yeah, no, I'm still it was that last 15 minutes. Yeah, that's what you mean. The last 15 minutes on Friday was pretty good, and then the follow up today so far is pretty good. Yeah. I really want this one to move because I feel like it's been making a lot of people a lot of money with these last couple of dumps down and whatnot, and it's you know, it's enough of that now. See this thing with the flashes, by the way. Obviously the body of work is always going to evolve with it, but it's nice seeing the heavy interaction that you get at times, even like over here where we drop back, where you know, where we gapped up to, and where did the gap happen to come in at? Well, you know, not necessarily in any of the areas that you might have immediately looked to, and indeed it wasn't where the prices themselves and where everybody, like the majority of the market, kind of wanted to see them consolidate. Where here you got them, a nice zoomed in screen, doesn't matter if you can't see, you've got them, it moved up and it consolidated for a wee while just above where you had previous market support, whereas when it gapped right to there. It's kind of just, it's just like, it's just that sort of thing. It's like I'm very aware about keeping it, like auditing this, and not just like finding something that's okay and works in the moment and pushing it, even if it has been quite good in my mind for a couple of years now. Yeah, great, sweet. So we're still seeing that follow through on AHT so far at the minute. Decent. Yeah, I was positive with the way that day started. I'm pretty positive overall with the potential for this to be, on a bigger picture, a decent low. I'm also pretty positive in terms of the way that this day started. Now, I mean, this is highly speculative based on these tiny 1 minute time frame and kind of thinking about it from this point of view. But cracking past this level, just for me, is like it's just a nice way to have started the day with that sort of moving that liquidity around. I mean, presumably as well, pre-market had obviously gapped up and whatever else. Pre-market trading. Let's just see what it was like in pre-market trading and see how much people got pushed around. Well, no, yeah, it was so easy for it to go up there. Yeah. This is the sort of thing which is like, in terms of like, okay, so this is where we ended. Can we get the prices to go up and then capture some liquidity come Monday morning? Is it possible for us to do that? And then you stick it on the extended hours and you see how little it cost them to actually push it up to that area to then get that liquidity. And then looking at the volume candles you've had today here, I mean, just thinking about this isn't manipulation. This is just people understanding what human nature's like and then just using it. I mean, what's the problem? Like, so in here, the fuck all volume that it took to get this much liquidity at the start of the day, to have that move up and down and then sideways, it's enough to give a lot of people the change that they need on their larger account to be able to trade away here. So then taking that area out now at this stage, I think is quite positive if that were to happen and whatever. So interesting stuff. It's interesting.
I got a question on the weekly flash that you got on there. So if the weekly flash ends in positivity, does it look like more like a like a positive momentum, or does it
Yeah, this is one of the
need
things
to,
that's been that's
or does
yeah.
it need to end in a negativity? You know what I'm saying? To be like the change. It's like like a momentum change. You know what I mean? Kind of like thing. Because it
Yeah,
seems
it's kind of it's um what's the best way of thinking about this in the sense like that the flash, at least at the very least, tells us something's coming, you know, and it's that bloop that
yeah.
happens on the radar, and it's like, okay, there's something out there. But then yeah, it's got so much to do with what the setup actually becomes at the end of it. Yeah, I think on the most basic principle of, do you want to see it ending positively or negatively, you want to see it ending
I always
positively.
look
See,
at the DMIs and the ADX kind of like in the flash moments, kind of like just to see how
yeah.
they're looking.
Yeah, I mean, if it's because so often they correspond with certain aspects of things. Like, for instance, you might get one on the 1 hour when you're looking at a wedge on the daily, and it looks like it's you know, it pushes towards the top side, and it puts a flash in towards the lower end of that wedge on the daily. And we often see that happen where it's like, can we get follow through and actually break out of this wedge and go towards the top side now, or will we come back down? And we know that we're coming back down to that lower end of that wedge, so you actually don't want to see the positivity then and it push outside and fake out and come back in again. So it's like the dynamics that, like, just, I don't know if you can see my screen, but say when the prices are going inside a wedge like this, and then we get a flash and it comes up saying, here, we're going to come back to this point. When you're up at this stage here, it would be much more ideal for it to actually just go back down without it actually pushing out and failing, because in this area here, you've got a whole load of people who are throwing their toys out the pram, getting sad about things and saying, oh, the positivity's gone or whatever. Or indeed, you've got people who are just exploiting where that gap, where outside of the flash, outside of the wedge, who maybe painted this wedge on themselves and were just looking for liquidity to short against there at that time. So in terms of the and knowing that they're very sensitive to that we're going to go back down to those areas in advance, it's kind of funny. It's like, what do you want to see? Because when that, if you're in that wedge, oh, and I apologize if I start getting real bad noises through the window. If you're in that wedge and you push down the way and there was this flash before, then what it then and it breaks negatively, well, it means that the sort of the recovery could be quite positive, but of course that's going to be typical as well and be a retest of the wedge, and you're probably likely to get that continuation towards the downside as well again after. So it's like so yeah, it's got so much to do with this flash telling you there's something happening, to then look and see, well, are we going sideways? Are we in a wedge? Are we in in a downward wedge? Is there something happening? Is there being a cup? And is this now coming in here at the and we've had a handle, and the flash has taken us back up to our 3 levels, and at the very least, we could aim for a failing pattern. And that's one of the dynamics about it, which is like, which is cool about the time aspect of having of the waiting aspect of it. It's like, there's a flash here, what's going to happen? And it's like, there's a flash here, and there's all this TA saying that something else might happen, and you're the one with, and you know that you know that you've got like this insight into how bigger players are probably, without even themselves knowing that that's what's going on, and then you can kind of piece that puzzle together and say, well, this is how I'm going to approach it. But of course, you have to wait until it ends, right? So you could have something happen here, like immediately it goes up, and it's about to break out, and then it comes back down, fills in the flash, and then fucks off straight away again. And this whole thing here has just been telling you, oh, there's something about to happen, and then it happens in the immediate candles immediately afterwards, and you never get to see it. And that could be, just saying, well, you win some, you lose some, you can't be on time for everything, and blah blah blah. Or that could be saying, like, that's perfect. We've had this
on the daily on the EMAs. Is that bullish divergence from the last high to the low? Is that because it did get higher, but just so slightly.
What are you saying? Is that bullish divergence on what?
On the EMAs, like your indicators.
Right. So you've got EMAs on the screen here. Let me just hide them on drawings again. And you're on the daily time frame, and you're asking, is that bullish divergence? I don't tend not to look in terms of, and I get what you're saying there, and I get the point that you're trying to make there. You're saying is the about the divergence there. I wouldn't look for divergence so much on the chart itself with versus moving averages on the chart itself. If I was to look for what you're identifying.
No, this is your indicator that I got
Oh,
on.
am I it? Oh,
Yeah.
right. Sorry. Right. Oh, on the moving average on the thingy. Ah, shit. Sorry, man. I wasn't listening properly. Incidentally, as it happens, sorry, man, because I thought you were saying something else for a second.
No.
We're fairly close to being able to put in some hidden bullish divergence on this. You see how in the MACD you've got this movement, and down here we've come down that low, whereas on the daily time frame we've come down not as low. You know. But the moving averages here are starting to kind of spread apart. That they've almost spread as far apart as whenever we'd made it. We'd had this negativity, but we've come down here with just this much already, and we've starting to see recovery. You know, if we do piss about in here for a day, for another day, and come in and retest any of these areas, then I would say, you know, look out for that, because you might have because when you were talking there, I was thinking, what's he looking at? What's he talking about? And then thinking, well, that's maybe what he's talking about, and you kind of pointed my eyes towards that direction. We might end up with some of that if we piss about here for a day and need to consolidate, and that might be the rocket fuel. But you're looking there and saying, is this got divergence? I don't look between the, as well, again, for people watching along and whatever, I don't look between the moving average, the colorful moving average and the white RSI that I've got here. Between those two, in terms of how they move in, and is there divergences between them necessarily? I've not really thought along those lines much before. But in terms of have we got any divergences just to look for here? This low, no. Between these two here, no.
With your rookie stock EMA,
yeah,
I'm talking about, it's a little bit high, right, in the last two
yeah,
highs,
sure. I see what you're saying here is in this. Like we've been doing it for quite a while in this region. So it was on the way down, it was starting to give us that, and it was quite nice. And then subsequently we come in for this lower low just here. Is that actually correct? I'm really making this chart messy. Hold on a second, just chuck it in the bin. Is that lower there or not? No, it wasn't, but it was nearly lower. It was like an almost equal low. Maybe I could fiddle around and find it as being an equal low in like a 2-day time frame or something. I don't know. Or maybe we'd find something if we looked elsewhere. But the general point being that obviously the momentum towards the downside was really less as in and around that region. I'm getting phoned by Jamie, who thinks I'm not live, I think, probably to tell me I should go live. So I'll go live in 10 minutes for Publix, by the way. Right, anyway. Yeah, and then there's these ones, and they're corresponding. This low here is lower than this low, and it's corresponding. This, yeah, no, there's strictly speaking, you could definitely debate that point out and say, no, that's not really divergent. But at the same time, it's so close that if it had pushed on, it would have been, and then it didn't for other reasons. But fair enough, you're getting a read off the market, and it is kind of in line with the way that things have been moving. So I would agree with that. The there's the point then, if you are looking for divergences though, that if you're to consider this to be a downtrend in this section, if this is a low and this is a high, and this is a lower low and this is a lower high, and you're looking down the way here, then at this point here, you'd have hidden bearish divergence. So this is hidden bearish divergence. This is a high on the RSI, which is higher than the previous RSI high for anybody watching along that's not following. This second low on price, this second high on the price here, this one I've circled, is lower. But the RSI is higher. So that would be your hidden bearish divergence, because you're looking at it in a downward trend. And during a downward trend, typically you'd look towards the lows, like we were doing in the run up to this, to say, well, have they come any lower? And they did converge in terms of this is a low and this is a lower low, and it's likewise on the chart and the price. So yeah, sure, that happened, right? Not going to say it didn't happen. Thing about it is, took us really close to that bearish control zone. We came back down. We've not gone anywhere near the bearishness yet. There's a range here to operate within, which has got tighter and tighter, and that we're so close to we can take out various different targets along the way, just operating within the range, easy enough for trading purposes. But as soon as you start taking out these highs, this is no longer hidden bearish divergence. You're just looking at what you're actually looking at that point is you're kind of just saying, well, look, you've got this upward this upward trend starting here, and all that sort of stuff. So you would look at essentially what I'm saying is that the debate about this as being hidden bearish divergence with these lows and that previous high is to do with if this gets continuation towards the downside. And I'm currently looking and saying, well, I'm only targeting within the range of it anyway. And if we do push on past of it, immediately I think that's brilliant, because I would be otherwise bullish on this. And that this analysis here is on a bigger time frame, which is like, that's let's cross those bridges when we come to them time frame, right, from where we are now. That everything that we're going to see here is going to be it could easily be positive and meaningless, or indeed bearish and relatively meaningless as at the time being. Because, you know, of course, if it was bearish and we actually took out our prior our low on Friday and moved down a bit more, you'd almost certainly be looking at having some bullish divergence on there, and then you're just kind of saying, well, got bullish, got bearish, whatever. And you're talking about the volatility. You're talking about how people are less sure of where it's going and how there's opportunity coming and stuff like that at that point. But yeah, it ignores a few other things. So it's on it's on a bigger time frame thing where we can kind of leave that to the back of our mind and not think about it. And the other thing about it is that it ignores like stuff like this in terms of where we've been, you know, and like what it was that really brought us to these areas or whatever, you know, like you know, is this analysis that we would have been and could have should have done along the way, if the magnet tool wasn't annoying me here, which shows us precisely where the markets have moved in the meantime. You know, is this really just more accurate and therefore better, if we were to think about it along those lines instead? And I would make the case that if you're going to be talking about this, that if this is going to be if you're wanting to put any stock in this right now as being hidden bearish divergence, then what you're doing is you're willfully ignoring, you're overlooking the fact that this was a wick that pushed us up to this region where we were fulfilling the measured move off of a price that we'd already had in the TA up to that section, and really, you know, that ultimately with this drop back down we fill in a flash, which we needed to do, which was as a result of the consolidation which was occurring. And if consolidation was occurring during this phase of the move, this much of it, and then you're going to come back and then say later, well, actually I'm looking at this whole thing as being a trend, and it having bigger trend and signals for me. And it's like, well, your trend and signals based off the back of my consolidation signal within this area, and I'm looking for a turnaround, and I think that my approach is more sophisticated than yours, would be my thing, on the basis of that if you're going to say that it is bearish divergence, I'm going to wait until it's proven, until I'm proven wrong, because my thing at the minute holds true for at least the time being now, and until and it includes, you know, other TA which is being overlooked to make that case. And that, you know, so that would be my point about it. But it's like, you know, that's so nuanced. I mean, that's the sort of thing that wouldn't really make it onto a live show, if I'm honest with you. So I'm glad that we had this. I'm glad that we asked, man. And even Bad Mama Jamma, man, I'm not even 100% honestly sure if I'm directly addressing the question that you were asking.
Yeah,
I don't want to
like I was talking about the last two peaks, like the $17 peak and the $16 peak. As far as like on your RO stock EMAs, how the previous peak was, this $16 peak was higher than the $17 peak.
Oh, in terms of the peak, well, I mean, yeah. So in the 24-hour time frame. So yeah. So then to continue, right? Okay, cool, brilliant, right? So everything that I've discussed right now is a great foundation for somebody who says then, but actually, did you notice this? And we could go on down to like a lower time frame thing and say, well, because on the 24-hour time frame that's hidden bearish divergence, then and it's formed off the back of that wick, and that is one of the key components of this wedge measured move to move up to the narrative that I had before. And I was saying in here that's all the wick. That wasn't explicit. It definitely wasn't. But it was. But the implication of what I'm saying there is, chuck everything in the bin again, is that we can look in here for those divergences. For the divergence across the different peak timelines, it does seem that this one, that on the when we were go away thingy. When we were up here at around $17, that we didn't peak any higher, that we were lower at that point, but maybe Was it the previous ones? I'm not sure. Looking here, yeah, on the run up here, we were doing okay. We weren't divergent. Between these 2 points here, we it's like we were divergent between these 2 points just here. So let me just draw mark it between that point and that point. We were divergent. We can look at this on the 4-hour time frame as well and kind of get this to be more sophisticated even still. But we were divergent between those peaks there, there, and that but that actually corresponds to this peak just here. So it's like me trying to fit things together. It's like we were divergent between these 2 points, and then we still ran up anyway, and that's kind of the fingerprint in this region here. It's so funny. It's like it's right, Wells Wilder, right, himself, when he talked about divergence, this is another part of the conversation that's kind of, makes it harder to have, not harder to have, but less appropriate for a live stream where, and that probably, I don't know, man. Actually, I'm no expert. Fuck. There's divergence here, and what he would have been looking for.
I'm just trying to figure it out.
A swing. Yeah, were you about to say swing failure there?
I was thinking it was going to be, but since it diminished off.
Yeah, well, this is yeah. Well, in terms of this, beautiful, man. Well done. Thanks so much. Yeah, good interruption. You're correct, right? Well done, man. For the benefit of anybody else watching along, that doesn't know what he's talking about, we've got these 2 highs here, and you'd be wanting to take out this low in terms of the big picture swing failure, and that didn't actually happen with what's going on here. It didn't actually happen. So in terms of the bigger implications from this divergence, which is on the 1-hour time frame now, which is the fingerprint behind the scenes of that hidden bearish divergence that we're seeing before, like that wick that pushed us up there to get that high is in this area here. Is actually these subsequently bearish divergent highs that put in that wick at that time, which then led to it dropping down. Yeah, we don't have that yet for follow through beyond that point of wherever the prices were going to naturally oscillate to anyway. And given that,
that's why I said it was probably going to come retest its previous
high. And then in here in the dynamics, while that was unfolding, there was also no swing failure between we're getting the bearish divergence between these 2. Let me just chuck in the bin again. We're getting the bearish divergence between these 2 points just here as we're running towards the top side, and it's like, let's keep our eye out for the swing failures as well. So this is our low here, and then we push up the way, and then we didn't take a swing failure just in here. We didn't. Looking at the price action, then what happened is we came up and we pushed a bit higher, and then in here we actually did get that swing failure. We still pushed even higher still, but then we had the drop off, and it's like, well, and then this happened fairly steeply, fairly rapidly. Seeing it and from a this is deconstructing it back the way, like a blind man going back the way, without needing to. I mean, we do have eyes, and we can see the prices drop down rapidly. But if you were looking at all of these dynamics and just staying at the RSI, like how could things go? The way that this has turned out is actually all kind of like seems to be correct. That's the way the prices have gone so far. So then we haven't had the bigger term swing failure between the 2 highs, which is going to be the one that you would be looking at over here. And yeah, so like the changing conditions happened. We kind of pissed around for a wee while in here. We've come up to the neutral line. We've not pushed back in and not had them since. And this is going back to what we talked about like 15 minutes ago at this stage, where somebody said there was the changing conditions. Good point. But that was really crucial over there. That's where we put in like the ultimate lows. We've not taken out those lows. Blah 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 blah. And then this push up. And like, if there's one positive thing to kind of say about this potential for hidden bearish divergence, in a sense, is that it has taken us so close up the way, and it's just part of it forms then therefore part of a just like an overall upward momentum path, which is like, quite tight in there, but and getting more volatile along the way. But if it could continue to do something like that, then the future's bright, in terms of this thing, because you'd be looking at this from a structural point of view and saying, well, in order to achieve any of those things, then this is entirely different mentality up here in these areas from where we are now. Again, but this has been such a fascinating one for the trader and for trading and for technical analysis and for things like in this section here when we had our last lows and could we see things turning around, and looking at it retrospectively now and seeing the bullish divergence at these points here and thinking this is pretty good. So this is cool, and this is a nice little phase here for kind of looking back the way afterwards and saying what are the dynamics in this sideways period and whatever. It's great. It's quite cool, man. It's quite good. This is why it's easy for me to come back to this chart to talk about whenever I'm doing whenever I want to show people examples and get educational stuff on the go and find there's going to be something interesting to talk about here, more so perhaps than in ones where they're so fear or hope driven in a sense, in terms of in terms of things like the fuckery that's been happening for poor D over there with with these movements that have happened. Like, this is intense, right? And it's kind of like I am looking for this to go up towards that 1298 area. That's what I'd be targeting out on this, blah blah blah. But it's intense, and it's like there's lessons to be learned here. But whenever the dentist puts away the drill and we don't have to be scared and everything else all the time, then maybe we'll be able to look back and take something from it. And one of the beautiful things about AHT along the way here is that we've been able to kind of proactively look at it and trade it at the same time. So cheers for that, Justin, man. Cheers for that, everybody.
Oh, are you finishing up here?
Man, I probably should, right? But I mean, I'm happy to keep going. I mean, what's the...
I was just going to point out that Chris is sharing his screen there, and I wondered if he was gonna share something with the.
So I see two people are sharing their streams. I'm sorry for not putting these on.
If you don't want to, if you want to go into the stream, that's okay as well. I just wanted to share.
I was just showing mine just to show it.
I was showing the massive Gartley on the. I was looking at Bed Bath and Beyond.
Oh, which screen are you? I'm looking at Bad Mama screen. Sorry, man, I got the wrong screen up. Just a sec, that's loading up. Right. Oh, cool. Hold on a second though, till I get my me so that I'm not so visible, and then get your screen to be way more visible for everybody. Can I do this? Why is it not letting me? There we go. Right, brilliant. I think this looks pretty good for everybody. Yeah, man, go ahead, crack on.
Yeah, I didn't have anything too crazy to say about it. Just that I was looking at Bed Bath and Beyond, and on the weekly chart, there's this giant Gartley. Not really sure if it's kind of had its move already yet. I mean, it's got to the first target there. It's underneath the Kumo there, and Chico is kind of consolidating and kind of colliding with price action there. But then if you go down onto a lower time frame, onto the daily, there's another Gartley. So I guess it's like Gartleyception or something. But yeah, just some really interesting stuff going on Bed Bath and Beyond there.
It so often is Gartleyception, man. Good points that you're making there. What's that indicator you've got down below there? Just people will be
it's called Boom Pro by, I think it's Verifid, VERIFID.
I mean, I don't know them, but cool. Okay, that's cool. What's it all about? I mean, I see it's got so many extremes on there. It might be an interesting one to point out. Those.
It's specifically just for finding entries. That's what it does.
Let me just. Well, we can see that was a nice extreme low that it got down to at the tail end when you were looking for that harmonic pause, and you're thinking, and the run up to that time, well, it would be ideal to see some other indicators saying this is an extreme area and things could turn around from here. Well, you certainly got that at that point, so that's quite nice to see. I'll just bring up the Bed Bath and Beyond chart as well myself and see if we can have a look at this. A couple of interesting points to point out to people who are watching along with what's the ticker again? BBBY with Chris's chart there. Is that, of course, he has it set to logarithmic, which can make it slightly harder for people's eyeballs to see the Gartleys. Obviously, it's you know, it doesn't matter that it's on logarithmic. That is, Gartley is still as valid as anything, because the way that this tool here works and all the rest of it is it uses what you call it, that the linear charts anyway. Yeah, the weekly time frame here taken from this low then, wasn't it, and up to, I would prefer to go to that extreme just as a thing, and then down to there, yeah, and then up to there, and then down to there. It's very easy at times when you got the magnet tool and you go up to the weekly chart to actually get those lows, like snap them on dead quick. Cool. Okay, so 618 is in fact, or 615 is where that low came in at. So in terms of like, do you have the right numbers with measuring it? You know, you're within like the fraction of a fraction of a fraction of the where it could go to anyway. That's actually is as perfect as you can be in terms of that number. Up there towards the top end as well, pretty damn great in terms of where that would be lining up at. Down here, pretty great. You're obviously the ideal Gartley. They say over in Gartley territory would be looking for 786, and you got 803 there. So you're again, you know, perfectly within that range. And obviously, this is the real world. So stuff, you know, reality has to have a say as to how things go. So frick yeah, man, good stuff, brilliant. So potentially though, things that would be worth pointing out, I suppose, is at this stage, having moved up, you could obviously be at your sort of T1 already with the ability to come back down and retest it here, you know. So that would be something to be aware of. You know, just would be something to be aware of. The weekly time frame golden cross that's on there, that's interesting that you know, we came back down, test that 50, wolf down, straight up, and then bang off the 50 again on that weekly time frame. It's an interesting chart on the weekly time frame as well, isn't it? Just that it stays so that this is one of those charts that is compelling for swing traders, you know, in the sense that this is why I'm a swing trader, because just look at this weekly chart here, and then they would show you and you go, oh, I see, I understand. Like there are big moves that happen, and once you get into a decent position, then sometimes you're okay with seeing like what is actually fairly significant pullbacks against you. You know, along the way here, we've had like several examples, like that's a 35%, 30% pullback. So, you know, a lot of that confused discussion that comes from trading when people are talking about hodling, etc., can be because, you know, somebody is legitimately talking about what's within their normal typical tolerance while trading on the and they're looking at the weekly time frame. And these are just heuristics I'm pointing out. Sorry, Chris, man, I'm kind of going off topic here for a second, but just kind of pointing these things out that we're here just to point out to people, because there's so much noise in the world of trading, and not all of it's noise. You know, not all of it's noise. Some of it's just two different dichotomies that may well be diametrically opposed, and that can be explained. That can be seen here with the with this just kind of pointing this out in the sense that when I bring on I'm at my maximum. I've done that again. I think again. I've still got the. Anyway, I was going to just point out that what the true range, right? And what you'd have seen here is that these candles would have operated just within the true range, and that from that basis, you know, that if you're thinking along the lines of, well, I'll have a stop which is however many expressions of the true range away, perhaps, you know, 2 moves of the true range away from the price as we move along or whatever. There's my entry. I'll go true range 2 whatever's away, you know. Then that would be then obviously you're going to see big moves like this. And like, do I necessarily, you know, just set it and forget it for a long period of time? Not necessarily, because as you can see here, this thing itself took what a year and a half, a year and a bit more to kind of develop. So it's not like it's not like you'd be in a trade here and just think, well, it's okay, I'll not look at it again for another 6 months. You know, it's a bit too ambivalent. But it's worth pointing these things out. And another thing that's worth pointing out as well is that when you are looking at this, and if you are talking about true range, you are talking about massive plays in the market against things which are very cheap. Then back here at that time, this was a really good move. Back in the 30th of March 2020, again, you know, so like this was presumably Roaring Kitty's type of chat would have been the case as well, because this is when we see the GME lows coming in with this one. And just look at the way down. Like if I did have the average true range open at the minute, and you said to yourself something along the lines of what the turtles, you know, those guys that I've got a book about. I don't have a book about. There's a book that's written about them by one of them in the book thread in the Discord. The way of the turtle in that. If he's thinking that he would put his thing in at two of the true range, you know, the price here at this time is like $4. So, you know, that would take him down to minus numbers. So in a sense, a lot of people that were long in it here were thinking, yes, you know, this thing could go to zero or whatever, but it can't go to zero, but it'll never hit what I would typically take as like, you know, if I was swing trading this here, I stand to lose more in that move down there than if I take everything I've got and I long it and it goes to zero. You know what I mean? And that's in that sense that the loss there is greater than the potential loss there could be, even though that includes zero in a sense. And I mean, obviously there's massive debates about that, because, you know, at here that's not worthless and at here zero is zero, right? Except if you had $100 here and it became $10 over here, and you had $100 here and it became $10 here, then it wouldn't. It becomes $0 there. But it's kind of like, you know, that's if you're talking about it from spot. If you were trading this on margin at this point, and given that most trade in the world really does happen with margin, given that margin amplifies trading volume, if you had a margin and it was worth $100 here, and then when you exited it was worth nothing there, and in a sense, to do the same trade, you wouldn't need as much margin. Why am I trying to say this? This is a really fucked point that I'm trying to make. Basically, when things go down lots, they go down lots, and you know, like there's this, then that's that. Okay, fuck it, whatever. Obviously, the percentage scale thing matters the most, and the fact is that zero is zero, and blah blah blah. But you know, when you're talking about moves here, like any of these retracements here are the thing going to zero from that point. Is kind of what I'm making here. You know, like these retracements here are this thing dying. So anyway, that's all. I got massively sidetracked because I never really look at the weekly time frame from the point of view of a massive move swing trade on the charts, because as a YouTuber doing technical analysis, I mean that there is like on a daily basis and stuff. It's like somebody will come back at the time that these things are supposed to have played out, and I'll have literally done 150 other shows in between times. You know, it's like or whatever. So even if I did do that, forget it. I did one of these on Bitcoin, I suppose, at one point. Anyway, good stuff, man. Really love it. Love to see what you're saying there, and just as a sort of easy sort of basis to look to this thing, to point it out that while we're looking at and I'm sorry for being so blasé about this, but I'm quick to speak here. But while we're looking at this harmonic that operates between these 4 points or 5 points, you say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on the linear scale. I mean, I have this chart and I have this chart on the linear scale as well. I can pop it back on log. This is all on the linear scale. And I've got this Fibonacci over here, and it's on the linear scale by virtue of the fact that I've got the charts on the linear scale. Just going to pop this back off again and go so you can see it like officially. So I've got this Fibonacci here, and as you can see, it's based on the linear scale, blah blah blah. Then all of this interaction that's happened is happening right at the 236 Fibonacci retracement point. So just to kind of say that if this happened to be T1 and we came in and we put in a higher low over here, that overall here, that would be a rejection of the 236. If we do get follow through and push up past these points and see days or weeks, I should say, I suppose at this point, because days. Well, actually, no. Looking at the daily time frame, you can see we've not had days. Let's just jump down the way and see 4 hours. 4-hour time frame. We've not had consecutive, 4 hours opening and closing. We've had a close, then an open, and that one candle. We didn't get any sort of real follow through here, even on the 4-hour time frame. So you're looking for this move on the weekly time frame, and this is to be aware of the fact that if we do actually go up here and close a day out at $23, then we may well be looking very rapidly towards a move towards $28 that could happen very quickly, or it could happen that we actually suffer here and push on down the way and don't manage to do that. This is looking at the weekly time frame, so it's worth looking here and seeing how this is going. Is this like a bull flag in that territory? Just to the harmonics, beautiful, brilliant, everything else. Harmonic method includes as part of it this idea of like where you'd have your T1, your T2, and all this sort of crap coming in at in terms of where you might be taking profits. Target 1 is what that stands for. And it's worth looking at this. I know, and as you can see, the weekly time frame obviously kind of blends those candles into one. But this here is then where you could be looking at that from the weekly time frame and saying, is this I'll hide all the drawings. Is there some sort of, is this potentially a bull flag that's happening in here? Drop down to the 3-day time frame. Is this potentially like some sort of half staff thing that's happening here? All that good stuff. Could it be 24-hour time frame? Suddenly you can see that. Is this possible? And it is worth pointing out then that, of course, from these lows to those highs, that this consolidation is obviously happening in it around about that 236. It's down below it, taking it. Anyway, the dynamics are clear to be seen there. That it could be this investigation here on the 24-hour time frame is a little bit kind of like not so great in terms of bull flag, but if we take out these, but if that's the principle, then taking out $21, I suppose, leads towards $19, and that's a 10% move, and I would take that. So I'd look out for that at the very least. And moving down to $19, I mean, is that even enough, or would we fill in the gap then at that point? And then, of course, then you're looking back up the way and you're saying, well, then it was option B, wasn't it? And we just kind of sank down from failure at the 236. So so that's what I'm looking at with that one, and that's of course chimes nicely with the harmonic. It's not like at this point on the way here, like how are we going to run on with this? And then the harmonics within harmonics, harmonicception thing, man, that's totally great. That's funny joke. I should have made that joke last week when I was talking about, or the last month or whatever, and I was talking about VLDR with the wedges within wedges. Should have called it wedgeception. That would have been funnier. Can't steal the credit from you though, Chris, man. Right. Yeah, I'm going to F off now and do that public show thing. This has been great, you guys, man. Thanks so much for taking part and chatting.
Your last donation come through?
Oh, man.
Nice one.
By the way, I really appreciate you doing that, by the way. And I hope that my ignorance to these things doesn't come across as taking you for granted, because it certainly isn't. Oh, fucking hell, man. Yeah, so it isn't taking it. I certainly don't want to. I certainly wouldn't ever want to take you for granted, mate. So I really appreciate that. Thanks so much. That's really generous of you. It's really, really kind, man. Thanks so much. It's really, really kind of you.
Oh, man.
Cool. So yeah, I don't ignore that. I don't. Yeah. You can probably figure out what I'm trying to say. Thanks so much, man. I'm going to go. I'm going to go have a wee quick break, and then I'll hit the live stream button. Thanks so much. To all you who are watching just now, I'm going to do the actual stream that I had scheduled for 3 or whatever in a minute or two, so you can jump on over to that one. And thanks so much for being a part of it. And I'm sorry for missing your questions. Right, I wasn't really paying attention, but I was talking to these guys, so I wasn't paying too much attention to chat. I didn't mean to miss yous in there, but just scrolling through the chat, and it looks like, yeah, everybody's dead happy. There's nobody asking much questions. Okay, cool. I'll see you all in the actual stream soon. Thanks so much.